Here's an update on 5 previous lessons. Hi there, thanks for joining us for Plain English Lesson 301. I'm Jeff, JR is the producer, and this full and complete lesson can be found online at plainenglish.com/301. As always, that lesson includes the full transcript, translations, a video walkthrough, exercises, and much more, all at plainenglish.com/301. Now, about every 6 months, we revisit some previous lesson topics and talk about what's new about those topics. Today, we'll revisit the Russian activist Alexei Navalny, professional sports, electric scooters, non-alcoholic drinks, and the race for a COVID vaccine. The expression today is a phrasal verb, to break down, and JR has a song of the week. Let's dive right in. We first met Alexei Navalny in Lesson 20 back in February 2018. At that time, he had been leading a movement to boycott the upcoming Russian elections. The Russian government arrested him to keep him quiet ahead of the vote in March 2018. He was back in the international news again, this time after collapsing on a flight from Siberia to Moscow. He fell into a coma and was transferred to Germany, where he received treatment. The German government investigated and said Navalny had been poisoned with the military-grade nerve agent Novichok. Navalny's chief of staff said the use of Novichok is the same thing as leaving an autograph at the scene of the crime, implying that the Russian president had no desire to hide that he was behind Navalny's poisoning. Meanwhile, Germany is about to inaugurate a large natural gas pipeline connecting Russian gas with European consumers. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel had been tolerating Russia's bad geopolitical behavior, but she is now losing patience. The episode could lead Germany, and by extension Europe, to take a more hardline stance against Russia in the future, though the pipeline will probably still open. The 44-year-old Navalny was released from the hospital on September 23rd and posted a selfie with his wife, thanking everyone who worked to save his life. Sports in the COVID era. We asked what that would be like in Lesson 266 back in June. Well, now we know. American baseball played a 60-game season with no fans in the stands. It was strange watching the games and a little eerie at first. Baseball stadiums pumped in fake crowd noise, which helped recreate the traditional atmosphere. A few teams got into COVID trouble early and had to miss parts of their schedule, but the abbreviated season was otherwise a success. Pro basketball, ice hockey, and pro soccer finished their interrupted season in bubbles. A bubble is where the teams are sequestered in 1 or 2 cities and play all their games at a single location. This is designed to cut down on travel and exposure to COVID. It works for tournament-style play, but would not be feasible for an entire season. NBA basketball games featured video screens in the spectator area. Instead of live spectators, they showed streams of dedicated fans watching at home. In Europe, football stadiums have started to welcome fans back, but at limited capacities. Every country is a little different, but France, Italy, Germany, Spain, and others are setting capacity limits of 20 or 30% at first, with specific limits determined by the incidence of the virus in a given city. 15,000 fans saw Bayern Munich raise the UEFA Super Cup in Budapest at the end of last month. Pro football in America is taking a similar approach, with some stadiums allowing a small number of fans, while other stadiums remain empty. Brazil wants stadiums to be 30% full soon, but football is on hold for the moment. France managed to stage its entire Tour de France without a single positive COVID case, even with some spectators in the bicycle tour. They're hoping for similar luck with the French Open tennis tournament, which is going on right around when this lesson is coming out. Remember lesson 47? We talked about how the sleek scooters from Lime, Bird, and other startup brands were popping up in cities around the world. Users thought they were a convenient way to get from point A to point B. Not everyone was happy, though. Unused scooters clogged sidewalks, blocked entrances, and were an eyesore on many city streets. The beginning of the pandemic was tough on electric scooter makers. As everyone stayed home, ridership plummeted. Lime laid off 400 workers in a painful 2-minute Zoom call. The entire future of micromobility was in doubt. How times change. As people start to move around again, many city residents are shunning public transportation and prefer solo trips on scooters to shared rides in Uber cars. Many U.S. cities have closed streets to cars, allowing pedestrians to take over the roadway. Scooters and bicycles are the only way to navigate those areas if you don't want to walk. For their part, scooter makers have introduced sturdier versions of their products. The new scooters are less likely to break down and are easier to track. Scooter makers have to hire an army of independent contractors to collect the scooters at night, bring them to charging stations, and return the fully charged scooters to the streets again in time for the next day. 2 scooter companies, GoX and Tortoise, are trying to solve that problem by having the scooters drive themselves to charging stations. We talked about the popularity of non-alcoholic cocktails in lesson 212 last December. In July, Anheuser-Busch, the maker of Budweiser beer, released Budweiser Zero, a beer with 50 calories, no sugar, and no alcohol. The new product was released in partnership with NBA basketball star Dwayne Wade, whose voice appears in new commercials. The beer is designed for people, perhaps including athletes, who want to enjoy a beer without the negative side effects. And finally, the one we're all monitoring closely, the COVID vaccine. We talked about it in lesson 284 in early August. One promising vaccine in development by the University of Oxford and AstraZeneca ran into a speed bump in September when a trial participant fell ill, causing the team to pause trials. After a 6-day delay, the trials resumed. Pfizer, Moderna, Novavax, and Johnson & Johnson are also working on phase 3 trials of vaccines. News about the vaccine's effectiveness and safety should be known by the end of 2020. Donald Trump eager to show a victory ahead of his re-election in November, has been promising a vaccine soon. This has prompted nervous drug makers to collectively release a public letter saying they would not bow to any type of outside pressure and would follow all safety protocols. Some old ones and some new ones in there. Raise your hand if you were with us back in Lesson 20 or Lesson 47. I know some of you are raising your hands. If you've just joined us and you haven't been able to listen to all the old lessons, that's okay. You have time. You can explore our old lessons via the lesson library. It's open to all members, free and paid, and it's a great way to explore the many topics we've covered in the last 3 years. You can also explore the old-fashioned way. Just pick a number at random between 1 and 300 and type it into your browser like this, plainenglish.com/then the number. And that will take you to one of our 300 English lessons in our history. Today's expression is to break down. This is a phrasal verb, and it means to stop working. Often, it refers to a mechanical problem. Why are you so late? Someone might ask. My car broke down and I needed to call a tow truck, you might respond. If your car breaks down, it's broken. You can't drive it anymore. Maybe it's making a terrible noise. Maybe the engine just shut off. Maybe there's an awful smell and white smoke coming out from under the hood. All those have happened to me in my lifetime, not with my current car, but previous ones. That's what happens when you drive a 15-year-old car with almost 200,000 miles on the odometer. It will break down occasionally. Lime and Bird scooters were not 15 years old, but they were breaking down. They were cheaply made, exposed to the weather, handled, not carefully, by lots of riders per day. The scooters would break down every so often, and a company employee or contractor would have to find it and bring it to a repair shop, or, just as often, scrap it, throw it away. That added to the high costs these companies face. The new versions are sturdier. They're more expensive up front, but they are less likely to break down. And when they do break down, the new versions have sensors that will tell the company exactly what's wrong so the scooter can get back on the road quickly. When I moved from New York to Chicago, I drove a moving truck with all my belongings in the back. And guess what happened on the Ohio Turnpike just west of Cleveland? You guessed it, the truck broke down. All of a sudden, I realized I just couldn't accelerate. The truck would move, but very slowly. I had to pull over. Remember that one? I had to pull over and call the truck rental company. The truck broke down. Penske, the big yellow trucks, if you've seen them in the U.S., Penske sent someone out to fix the truck so I could be on my way. Luckily, it was an easy repair, and I continued my journey the same day. That's the most common way to use break down. Cars, trucks, machines, things like that. You can also use it when referring to a process that stops working. A negotiation can break down if the two parties to the negotiation cannot reach an agreement and are not willing to keep talking. A deal can break down for the same reasons. A process can break down if it's not working the way it was intended. A team can suffer a communication breakdown. In that case, communication can break down if members of your team or your family are just not talking, not communicating well. JR's song for this week is Every Breath You Take by The Police. The lead singer of The Police was Sting, who also had a solo career. It's estimated that this one song represents between a quarter and a third of the income he made from music. It's frequently played on the radio and is number 84 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Every Breath You Take by The Police is JR's Song of the Week. And remember, you can play the Song of the Week right from your Plain English dashboard if you're a member at any level, including the free level. Well, that brings us to the end of this lesson. Congratulations on making it to the end. Thanks again for being with us for 301 English lessons. I hope you liked JR's message from yesterday. Tuesday, I guess. And remember, you can explore all our lessons by becoming a free member at plainenglish.com and exploring the lesson libraries. See you next time.